Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. As I explained, I'm standing up because if I sit down, you can't see me. So, look, it is a historic occasion. So, congratulations to the new council, councillors-elect. Staff point of view, we look forward to working with you to make sure that we serve the needs of the community as best we can. So you certainly have our full support in working through the interests of the community. These proceedings are live streamed, so defamation laws do apply. There is no parliamentary. Just be respectful and be careful of what you do say, because it is an extraordinary council meeting, which means that only those matters listed on the agenda can be considered. That's a legal situation. So prior to commencing our proceedings, since about June 2016, there's now a requirement that each newly elected councillor takes an oath or an affirmation to fulfil their role as a councillor. So as it is certainly a very historic occasion with the inaugural meeting of the Cootamundra-Gundagai Council, I think we should probably do that individually, unless otherwise, but it'll only take a few minutes, I think, and we'll get a photographic record of each councillor as a affirmation or oath. I proceed to do that now. If I'll just move.
I, Lee Bellaboden, solemnly and sincerely declare and affirm that I will undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interests of the people of the Cootamundra and Gundagai areas and the Cootamundra-Gundagai Regional Council. I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment.
Thank you. Now, if you'd like to sign that, either blue or black, to its birth, I'll witness that. Thank you.
Thank you.
We might take photographs afterwards so that everyone gets settled. Well, next one off the.
Thank you. I, Penelope J. Nicholson, solemnly and sincerely declare and affirm that I will undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interests of the people of the Cootamundra and Gundagai areas and the Cootamundra-Gundagai Regional Council, and that I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and the discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment. Thank you. Can I borrow your pen now? Thank you. Beautiful. Thank you.
Take that in your right hand and
I, Dennis Thomas Palmer, swear that I will undertake the duties of the office of council in the best interest of the people of the Cootamundra and Gundagai areas and the Cootamundra-Gundagai Regional Council, and that I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and directions vested in me under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment.
I, David John Graham, swear that I undertake the duties of the Office of Councillor in the best interest of the people of the Cootamundra-Gundagai areas and the Cootamundra-Gundagai Regional Council, and I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment. Done.
Yep. I, Douglas Andrew Phillips, swear that I will undertake the duties of the Office of Councillor in the best interests of the people of the Cootamundra and Gundagai areas and the Cootamundra-Gundagai Regional Council, and that I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment.
I, Craig James Stewart, swear that I will undertake the duties of the Office of Councillor in the best interest of the people of the Cootamundra and Gundagai areas and the Cootamundra-Gundagai Regional Council, and that I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment.
I, Charles Jarrett Sheehan, swear that I will undertake the duties of the Office of Councillor in the best interest of the people of Cootamundra and Gundagai areas and in the Cootamundra-Gundagai Regional Council, and that I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment.
I, Gil Kelly, swear that I will undertake the duties of the Office of Councillor in the best interests of the people of the Cootamundra and Gundagai areas and the Cootamundra-Gundagai Regional Council, and that I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in me under the Local Government Act 1993 to the best of my ability and judgment.
I, Albert James McAllister, swear that I will undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interest of the people of the Cootamundra and Gundagai area and the Cootamundra-Gundagai Regional Council, and that I will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and directions vested in me under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of my ability and judgment. Thanks, mate.
That is a legal requirement now that you have to be sworn in. Now, it used to be the case a long, long time ago, then it went out for 20, 30 years, but it's now back in. So that's, I think that's good. It's certainly a special role. The acknowledgement of country, I would like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri people who are the traditional custodians of this land. I'd also like to pay respect to elders both past and present of the Wiradjuri nation. That respect to other Aboriginal people present. There are no apologies and there's no disclosures of interest. The next item on the agenda is the election of mayor for the 2017 and 19 term left before general elections. It's been decreed that the first term is for a 2-year period and the last term will be only obviously for a year. The deputy mayor is somewhat different, but we'll deal with that when we get to it. So we need a resolution to determine the method of electing the mayor. Well, I guess for a start, we better see if there's any more nominations. I have 2 nominations for the position of mayor. Which are in order. I have Councillor Doug Phillips, McAllister. Are there any other nominations? It's none. That's okay. Now I have had a request from you're both prepared to stand, and Doug, you. I have had a request from one of our new councillors that she would like to ask a question. I'm prepared to let any councillor ask a question of those 2. We determine how to vote and take a vote. So, Councillor Bowden, you had a question.
Yes, I've got 2 questions that I'd like to ask both councillors, please. The first is, being full-time employed, particularly employed by somebody else, how do you both propose to balance the responsibilities and requirements of being mayor with your full-time employment? And one is, what assurances can you give that you will be representing both the regions, given the schisms that have happened over the past 16 months?
Oh, I'm happy to go first there. Excuse me, as in with employment, I've got no problems there with my employer. So that's not an issue. What's happened over the last 12 months, you're probably referring to that I've been an advocate of against the mergers, and I probably always hold that view. But I wouldn't have put my hand forward to stand as a councillor if I wasn't here for the best interests of the residents and the ratepayers of the Cootamundra Regional Council. And I just stated that when I stated that oath. So I'm here fully committed to, you know, we'll see over the next few months where we stand in council, where our finances, you know, we need transparency, our infrastructure, where we're up to. And that's what we got to base ourselves on, looking after the wants of the residents and the ratepayers of the Cootamundra-Gundagai Regional Council. But as I said, I wouldn't have taken that oath, and I wouldn't have stood for a position as councillor if I wasn't 110% committed to the job that I'm here for.
Okay. And Lee was referring to, I work full time for the Department of Education. I'm a high school teacher. And how could I do that with and be the mayor? I actually had a 2-year term as mayor. I ran my own business quite successfully. 4 years ago, I finished that term, so it's not that far in the past where I've forgotten how hard it was. And working for the Department of Education these days, they're really quite supportive, especially with their staff working in the community and for the community, because that's what education is about as well. And they actually provide additional special leave for people if they're the mayor. And it's quite flexible that if there's meetings, we actually, teachers are quite collegiate, and we actually cover each other and help each other out, and that's how it works, and that's the way I enjoy my job. The other thing is the benefits for the mayor and being a school teacher, they go hand in hand for the community, that students and parents actually really know the face of a councillor or a mayor. As to the merger or demerger, I feel that one of our first acts as a council, whether I'm the mayor or not, needs to be that we need to set a council position. We cannot continue to go along talking about mergers. I understand some of our ratepayers, and quite a lot of them, are very disappointed with the state government way it all went about. But at this stage, obviously, if sometime in the future an opportunity come up, we look at it when it turns up, but we need to put it behind us so we can move forward. We've just had an election finalised, and with the result that we have here today, 9 councillors. It was clear from the election results that our communities have told us they support who they'd like to lead council. Our communities have been without elected representation for 16 months. And I know for one, I haven't liked it. We now have the opportunity to deliver what Gundagai and Cootamundra communities have voted for. It is time we put aside politics, positioning and personalities to do what we've been elected to do. And that's to represent our community and their wishes for the benefit of the region. Thanks, Lee.
Thanks, Ab and Doug. We now need a resolution to determine the method of electing the mayor. We have two candidates, as I say. We can either do a preferential ballot, an ordinary ballot, or an open voting system, which is a show of hands. So we need a resolution for one of those 3 types of elections.
If I could, through the chair, make a recommendation that we move in compliance with section 3.12 of the draft code of meeting conduct of practice, conduct a secret ballot for the election of the mayor.
Just by ordinary ballot.
By ordinary ballot.
We got a seconder for?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favour? Yeah. Against? Carried. So we'll now proceed to have a ballot for mayor. I'll hand out some slips. The slips are a bit, been pre-prepared, a bit too complicated, I think. We really only need one name on these slips, either Ab or Doug, as long as you can indicate which one. And I'll pass them around now. I have to announce that the Mayor for the next 2 years is Councillor McAllister. Congratulations.
Thank you, and I'd like to congratulate Doug on standing. I'm sure, as Doug said there before, we can all work together, and that's what we need. You know, I might be the mayor, but I'm no different to all you blokes, and we've got to, and ladies, sorry. We've just got to work for the betterment of our council from day one, and I'm sure we can do that as a group. Thank you very much.
You might like to assume the chair, Ab, please. While Ab's coming, we'll get on with the Deputy Mayor's election. Now, Council, we need a resolution. I'm just conducting the elections as returning officer while you come. We need a resolution as to whether it's a 1-year term or a 2-year term. Council has an option to determine.
Well, through the chair, General Manager, I move that we elect a 2-year term for the Deputy Mayor, consistent with the term of the Mayor.
We've got a seconder for that.
Happy to from here. To the chair.
Thank you. All in favour? Against? Carried. So we have 2 nominations for the position of Deputy Mayor. Wherever I put them. Oh, no, I did have them. We have Doug Phillips and Dennis Palmer. You're both prepared to stand? Okay, so same rules.
Thank you.
Have to announce that Councillor Palmer is the Deputy Mayor for the next 2-year period. Thank you and congratulations to everybody. That completes my role in the chair, Mr. Mayor, so it's over to you.
Firstly, congratulations to Dennis, and thank you, Doug, for standing again. I'm sure I can work very well with Dennis. I could have worked with any of the 8 of you. It's a great privilege for me to be a mayor of this, the first Cootamundra-Gundagai Regional Council. You know, as I said, we've got a lot of work to do. I'm sure to make this work, and we'll make it work. We just got to work together, and I always say, as being a councillor on positions like this, you got to be a very good listener. You know, you got to listen to your community, your ratepayers, your residents, and you'll have your opinion on the project or an issue to do with council. and you must listen. Like, you'll have your opinion, but the big thing is you've got to listen to all the other councillors, because there'll be a lot of times that you'll sit back and say, well, yeah, I'm not right here, and I agree with whoever it is. So I just wish us all the best, and I'm sure we'll have a good council, and along the way we'll fix up the problems we got to. Thank you. Yeah, mate.
Thanks. Thanks, Hope. The next item on the agenda is the draft code of meeting practice, which it's a new council, a new start, and there are some different meeting procedures since you were last in office. So in this is that you adopt it for exhibition and wait for the comments. It's got to be on exhibition for at least 28 days, and it comes back to council, and council can have a final say on what they want to adopt. So recommendation is to be adopted for exhibitions to me.
Were there any questions on Councillor Graham?
Yeah, through the chair, General Manager, what are the main changes?
The main changes are really to deal with matters without notice, and there's been a real issue about general business not being discussed, like due notice being given of business, so that every councillor is aware of any interest they may have in a subject. There's been several cases where councillors have been caught out voting on matters that have been brought up without notice when they didn't, I say, had an interest in those things. So it's just a matter of being a bit more organised in how we deal with things. We can, anything that we want dealt with, we should give notice of to the General Manager so that it can be put in the business paper, and everybody has a fair crack at then assessing whether they have an interest in those matters or not. So that's probably the main. Other than that, it's just fairness and equity, and everybody getting a fair go.
Councillor Bowden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a couple of questions. This is 2.5 for order of business. There's no, like, this comes from being at meetings, not at council meetings, where there is no business arising from minutes listed, and I just wonder why that is. And another thing is that I know in council papers that come out, there is correspondence, but there is no place for correspondence in the agenda. And then a third question is point 26, that the notices of motion are to go to in writing to the General Manager by 3 p.m. on the Tuesday immediately preceding the meeting. Why the Tuesday? Like,
well, that's through you, Mr. Mayor. That depends on. That'll be obviously changed depending on when we determine the meeting.
Yeah.
And as far as matters arising from minutes of previous meetings, you will get an action report on what's happened over the previous minutes, so they don't need to be regurgitated. You will report on statement. It's my intention to make sure that councillors get a copy of each of our weekly Manix meetings and monthly managers meetings for information only, so that you have a right to know things that the people ask you in the street that you're not going to get in the official format of a council meeting. But you will get enough information to be able to answer any of those queries. And if you have any other queries, well, just contact me or any of the senior officers and available. But we don't regurgitate matters in council meetings.
Thank you.
Councillor Palmer.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, I'm just questioning the attitude of the position of where the new council will meet, even ward rooms at 4 o'clock. You have picked one of the busiest times and one of the busiest intersections of Cootamundra, and I'm afraid rooms acoustics are not up to scratch. You've got all the school kids, got all the buses, all the mums and dads coming to pick their kids up right in the corner. We're not insulated from the sounds from that externally. I think at 4 o'clock at Stephen Ward rooms is not going to be successful.
that really is only a just a throw up for discussion. I mean, it's up to you when you want to have your meetings, and we're from a staff point of view, we don't mind, but we are developing a meeting space in that vacant room next door, fronting Cooper Street. That old sort of vacant area there, we're refurbishing that as part of the implementation funding to provide councillor and meeting room space in there. So if we do have to meet in the boardroom at any time, it'll only be an interim measure until that's ready, which will be a couple of months. But yeah, don't take that as a suggested time. That's just there for something to discuss. So.
What's where council use meeting? Is there any issues there?
Sorry,
in the actual council building. I remember when I went to.
Well, it's being there's no lift upstairs, so we're refurbishing it at the moment to provide a bit more space for people like the mayor and a bit more open space. We've taken the opportunity to refurbish the office, so that will really involve putting a lift in, and it's probably 3 months out from happening. But the council law space is proposed, which was proposed under the administration role, was to be in the. It's a good area that has been going to waste, and it provides you with street access and access to the public. So it'll be it's an independent council space sort of thing, which is it's a lot more in keeping with what happens these days. I mean, to give you access to the public and the community, and councillors can hold open forums and that sort of thing in there on their own, or do whatever they want, community, which is generally what happens these days.
Chair, obviously it's going out 28 days comment. All the councillors, we've got a lot more time to reread it,
Sure.
Go back over and raise our own questions when those comments come back.
Sure.
So with that said, I'd like to move the recommendation.
Second it?
Yes.
Councillor Kelly?
No.
Carried.
Mr. Mayor, the next item on the agenda is a draft media policy. We all need the media. The community needs the media, and we need the media. But there needs to be some sort of care taken on how the council presents itself to the media, and obviously the mayor is the principal spokesperson on matters there, and the general manager from a staff point of view. But it's once again, it's a draft policy that you probably need to take away and have a look at and see how it works. But there's some pretty good guidelines in there, and there's also some protection for the individual councillors to the enthusiasm of the media sometimes at taking advantage of new councils and that sort of thing. So that's why it's I think it's critical to have that up, so you've got some idea what you can and what you should and shouldn't do. But once again, it's up for exhibition. So,
Any questions? Moved Councillor Graham, seconded Councillor Palmer. All in favour? Carried.
thanks, Mr. Mayor. The next one is really an endorsement of the fees that were adopted by the administration period for the current council. So I can't see any issue in adopting that, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Councillor Graham.
Whilst we have that recommendation, I'm personally of the view that we should be taking minimum, which is 8750. And the reason for that is that previously on the old Gundagai shore, we always used to take minimum. And secondly, I think as a council going forward, we've got some pretty hard decisions to make to place and start to control expenditure. Right? This is just money's just not going to keep coming and coming and coming, and it's our responsibility in the next 3 years to pass this over to the next council in a very, very stable, strong financial position. Funding that we've got through some of the money through the merging the two sides, plus e.g. the $13.5 million for the sewer at Gundagai, there's no reason why we won't have a strong infrastructure status in 3 years' time. So I just think it sends a good message out there to the ratepayers. It's my personal view.
Anyone else want to talk on that? Speak to that motion? Councillor Bowden?
It was my understanding that the state government actually paid the remuneration for the councillors. No, it comes out of the councillor funds. Okay.
The Remuneration Tribunal sets the minimum and maximum fees, which is an independent body, a bit like IPART, but it's entirely up to the council. I think taking Councillor Graham's notice on and comments on board, I think it's a vastly different council you're operating now. Like, you got a lot of area and there'll be a lot of travelling and a lot of time commitments that you didn't have before. It's just a comment, it's not.
Councillor Shane?
Yeah, through the chair. I think we should take what's on the table. I think this council is going to be very much more demanding of us as councillors than the Gundagai Council was. And I think the travel alone between the two communities, I think we should be taking what's on the table, but it's only fair remuneration for the effort that we put in.
Anyone else like to speak? Would someone like to move the motion?
I put the motion that we
Second, Councillor Bowden. All in favour? Oh, moved. Yeah, moved.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The next item on there is councillor training and induction. Contrary.
Deputy Mayor. Yes.
Oh. Well, that's really by arrangement between the mayor and the deputy mayor. That can be done at any.
Oh, so the deputy mayor doesn't. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, no, there is no provision to provide a deputy mayor's allowance, but it's up to the mayor. If the mayor's away for a couple of weeks, he can ask me to allocate the funding to the deputy mayor.
Yeah, no problem.
That just happens. I think it's a bit of an injustice, but it's
no, it'll be right.
It's the law. As is the next item, Mr. Mayor, councillor training and induction. It's now a legal requirement that councillors are inducted, although I don't know what the penalty is if you don't participate. As far as I know, there's none, but they tell you it's binding. We were planning on, it was Stephen suggesting that we get Glenn Inglis to do an induction, of course, maybe away somewhere for a couple of days, but subsequent to that, the Office of Local Government and Local Government New South Wales have arranged to have such an induction here at Gundagai in the so we'd obviously be silly if we didn't involve ourselves in that and avoid paying the cost of and inconvenience of going away somewhere. So if we still need more training after that, well, we can look at it. But I think if we clock in the log in the 1st of November, which I think is a Wednesday, over here at the club. So that's really takes the place of, well, that's the recommendation anyway. So.
Any questions on that training day? Wednesday, the 1st of November.
I think Councillor Bowden's be in Sydney for one. She won't be here for that, so she'll go to the one in Sydney.
Yeah, I've spoken to the general manager about it, and I'll be in Sydney. So there's one at Kent Street in Sydney on the 19th of October that I'll partake.
Not an issue. Well done.
Thank you.
Would someone like to move the motion? Move Councillor Graham, seconded Councillor Kelly. All in favour? Carried.
Now the next one is the meeting times and dates, Mr. Mayor, which I know Councillor Bowden has spoken to me. She says the 4th Thursday is okay for her, but not the 3rd. So I don't know what suits everybody else. So. But from a staff point of view, it's good not to have it in the first couple of weeks because we have financial transactions to do at the end of the month. So. Correct.
Yeah. Look, from my point of view, I'm easy. It's up to what the other councillors feel that they prefer. You know, work-wise, you know, we've got to think about that. Councillor Phillips.
I know there has been some discussions already between councillors, and Whilst 4 o'clock on the Thursday is probably quite easy for my employment, some of the other councillors, that's a busy part of their week. Whether we could do it earlier in the week. The other thing I've always thought about, if we have it at 4 o'clock, we're actually denying everyone who works in our shire. It's bad enough when we have a meeting in Cootamundra, the people who work in Gundagai, it's going to be difficult to get there. And because most of constituents, I actually think maybe 6 o'clock or something earlier in the week. That's just my thoughts, and I think because the whole idea of having a council meeting is where it's open for can come and talk to what we're doing.
Councillor Kelly.
I'd just like to back up Doug's sentiments there. We want true open transparency. Ideally, we want as many of our community members to come to the meetings, and I think 4 o'clock's too prohibitive for that. I think 6 o'clock would be better for a lot of people to be able to come to the meetings and sit in the gallery.
Anyone else? Councillor Shane?
Yeah, just one concern, like in the winter months, it's probably quite appropriate when we've got to travel across from Cootamundra when it actually gets dark quite early and could be a little bit more dangerous travelling at night. I have no problem with later times like 6 o'clock during daylight saving in the summer months, but I think those winter months we should keep those into consideration too.
Councillor Stewart?
I would hope and agreeing with Councillor Phillips and Kelly that if earlier in the week, the third Monday or the third Tuesday, has Thursdays are fairly hectic in anyone's life, shopping, and I know in my business it's the worst day of the lot where the stock comes in, and so.
I probably agree with you there. Here we always had it on a Tuesday, and one of the reasons was probably it was one of the quieter days of the week business wise for people, so that's why we picked Tuesday. So that's when we used to ours.
Thank you.
Councillor Bowden.
Sorry, just two questions. If it were a Tuesday, would the papers then come out on the Friday?
Yes, we would certainly get them out on Friday. We're refining our system there, and there'll be a lot. But you'll certainly get your 3 days notice. If it's Tuesday, they'll go out Friday. I mean, Tuesday's fine by us.
Yeah.
No.
And the other question I have is that Mariam McInerney mentioned that there is now a council bus. So in terms of transporting councillors from one town to the other for meetings, is that a possibility?
Sure. Yeah, that was purchased through part of the implementation funding to facilitate that sort of communication.
So would that alleviate Councillor Sheen's concern about travel?
Well, you're still in the bus, I guess. You can still enter.
Yeah, but it's not us driving.
Depends who's driving the bus too.
You just have a mass by-election, then that's all.
There's someone, Councillor Palmer.
If I could, I do totally agree with the earlier part of the week, because most businesses are very busy towards the end of the week. And I do feel strongly that we need to have it after working hours, because a lot of our residents, or some of our residents, do like to participate in these open forums. And if we had it at 4 o'clock, it would exclude a lot of working ratepayers. So I'll test the water. I'd like to move it to be 6 o'clock.
Someone like to, or did you want to speak?
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing. I was just going to move a motion of the last Tuesday of the month at 6 o'clock.
So do you want to second that motion of
Dennis's
Councillor
motion.
Palmer's?
Councillor Palmer.
Kelly seconded. So it's 6 o'clock every third Tuesday. The last Tuesday we're going.
The last Tuesday is problematic because it depends on whether there are 5 or 4 weeks in the month. So you need to nominate either the 4th or the...
Still be the last
Tuesday. Last Tuesday. Yeah.
Tricky.
All in favour? Carried.
Well, that concludes the business paper, Mr. Mayor, which is we need to take photographs. We'd like to take individual photographs of people with their swearing in, and Maxine was going to do that here in front of the banner. And we also need to get a group photograph. Because getting group photographs of councillors is very difficult, and sometimes you get to the end of the term and you can't get them. So we'll get them for the first meeting, and Maxine would like to take them out in the park before you all disappear. So can we do that?
So that's all for the meeting.
That's all. Yes.
No, nothing. Well, we've gone through the agenda that we had. So I'll declare the meeting closed at 4:45.